Now, right? Okay, welcome to our healing meditation service. We're going to be doing the Tibetan bowls and then the crystal bowl tonight. If I can get this mic on right. Never simple, is it? Is life ever simple? Okay. I'm going to read the daily word for today. Today I deny the power I may have given to fearful thinking. I remember I am foremost a divine being, endowed with many spiritual gifts. Aligning myself with the presence and power of God drives fear away. I am brave and I live from my divine identity, knowing the wisdom, power, and intelligence of God are mine to express as only I can. Nothing and no one will cause me to feel afraid. I am one with God, powerful and fearless. And what you would be holding in your mind all day long would be the statement, my heart is free from fear. And then when you have these statements that you go with, and Course in Miracles has a statement that you would do every single day, it changes your life. When that thought, you want to keep bringing it in. When you start to go off, you bring in that statement. It changes your whole psyche. It just brings you into another dimension. So whether you use Course in Miracles statements or the daily word, that's what they're here to do, is to help you train your mind to be focused on a higher way of thinking. So I'm going to do the Tibetan bowls right now, and they're all calibrated to our chakras. So you just want to get comfortable. I don't care if you lay down on the pew, and that weird pew, whatever, it's so strange. But anyway, on these seats, and just get comfortable so your body's out of the way. Okay. And focus on your third eye.
Good evening, everyone. In my last two talks, I made the observation that both sides in the Hamas-Israeli war lack insight to heal the vengeance between them. And they lack the insight because they perceive life as strictly a physical affair. And within that physical affair, there are conditions and people that are threatening to them. And so they live in this definition of life which has the foundation of separation. And because they have that illusion or false definition of life, insight is not something they have access to. When I speak about insight, I'm talking about the refined intelligence we recognize to be God. The refined intelligence that is life and the creator of life. And each of us can, if one is willing, have access to that intelligence and therefore be able to resolve any situation or condition that one is meeting in life. What it really comes down to is the necessity for the unenlightened, and that is anyone who follows the same definition of life being strictly a physical affair. From their personal point of view, they don't feel they could surrender their defenses because they have this fear that there are people and conditions that have intentions of evil toward them. So you see, there are two definitions of life. And you might say each definition of life opens up a dimension of awareness. For those that live in the worldly thinking of separation and fear, they will lack insight in dealing with their conditions and problems. And those that have transcended that illusionary consciousness that every one of us was born into and raised and educated in, there are those that have transcended that level of consciousness. They're in a new dimension of experience where they experience joy and peace and the ability to have compassion and love for everything there is and everyone there is. For them, there is no fear. They're not defensive because they simply live in a completely other awareness that occurs in their experience moment to moment to moment. We really should just ask the question, do you want to be there? Or do you believe at all what Jesus said, that heaven is in our midst? That means not off someplace, but right in our awareness. There is the divine awareness that we can access and live in and from and heal our lives completely and be part of the collective healing of humanity. So I will give you another illustration. This illustration, again, could be considered overused, but of all the illustrations one uses to try to relate consciousness, this one I feel is one of the best, one of the truest. It speaks about a person, can be a man or a woman, who arrives in this railway station where there's a lot of hustling and bustling going on, and this person is having his or her bags taken off the train and put on a dolly, and the attendant is moving the dolly. And this person stops to ask one of the attendants standing by in the station, "What is this town like? What are the people like?" And the attendant says, "What were the people like in the town that you came from?" And the person says, "It was a terrible place. People were vindictive, mean, self-centered, and deceptive, and they do anything to get over on you. It was just a terrible place. It's one of the reasons why I'm moving." And the attendant says to this person, "Well, I'm afraid you're probably going to find the people here are just like that too." The woman or the guy moves on. Somebody else arrives in the station as his bag's being taken off the train, walks up to the same attendant, says, "What are the people like in this town?" And the attendant says, "Well, what were the people like in the town you came from?" He says, "Well, they were wonderful people. They couldn't do enough for you. They were friendly to a fault almost. And they did beautiful things, had beautiful projects, outdoor concerts and things. Everybody was invited. It was family. People sat out in the evening without any fear or concern. I'm only leaving that town because my company has relocated its headquarters to this town. So what are the people like here?" And the attendant says, "You'll find the people here just about like the ones in the town you came from." And that particular illustration is absolutely true. Life is consciousness, period. So the consciousness we embrace, the inner awareness that we have from whatever experiences and beliefs we've collected over our lives, that which we believe to be so will be outpictured in all of our relationships, wherever we go, at any time. Can you imagine that that is the only essential religion? I remember Swami Rama, when he came to this country and stopped in New York. He was a fledgling guru. Nobody knew him. He happened to wander up to the Association of Research and Enlightenment, a rather, limited apartment that we had where we were studying the works of Edgar Cayce. He found his way there, and he asked if he could do a lecture on a one night. I said, well, not very many people that attend here. We might get 20, 25 people. He was unknown. He said, that'll be fine. So we said, why not? I wasn't the head of that center at that time, and he showed up. And one thing he said that was very, very powerful to a woman that had come up to him and laid out her problems, her terrible life. Things were going so badly for her. And he said to her, and everybody could hear it, so, you don't like your life? She said, no, of course not. He said, change your mind. This is the hard part, because having lived in the illusionary definition of life, all of us, some of us more than others, having had some really limited, fear-driven experiences along the way, and always seeming that those experiences came and were there, and that everybody experiences this, on and on and on. And we take it in, and we find ourselves going through life this way, always somewhat defensive, concerned about what someone might say or do that would affect how people see me or deal with me. The only solution, can you imagine how honorable the universe must be? That the only solution is taking your own awareness to task. Take your own awareness to task means to enter a spiritual practice that will open your mind and begin to dissolve the limited illusionary beliefs that make up your definition of a fear-driven, defense-oriented life. That's all of religion. You can go to Tibet, you can go to the mountains in India, you can go find a guru, you can lay at the feet, you can hang out in an ashram for 20 years, hoping that somebody's going to lay their hands on you, and suddenly you're going to feel great because you were enlightened. You will never become enlightened unless you open yourself to the practice of this divine awareness, which resides within everyone. You can bring it forth in your own experience and become an enlightened being. And that takes practice. It takes doing spiritual principles, meditation. Unless you don't really believe you have that much to change, and you can measure that, it's easy. You can measure your place on the spiritual journey by the amount of peace you have in living your life, and the amount of insight you have to be able to, in spite of conditions and circumstances, to bestow peace and bestow compassion and bestow joy. Where are you with that? That's it. That's how you measure where you're at. And if you don't like where you're at, it takes more practice. So when I bring up this whole idea about taking life as a strictly physical affair in which the masses of people and So many of them will be considered to be somewhat dangerous, and one needs to have defenses against them, whoever they turn out to be. But all of that takes place in the denial of the presence of God as love, all of that, when you're not in the awareness of the presence of God as love under all conditions, circumstances, then you're still in that denial, and your illusionary definition of life prevails in your experience. So, this particular passage from A Course in Miracles clearly defines the human dilemma. I'm reading from the old Course in Miracles text, page 203, paragraphs 1 and 2. It's in the new edition of A Course in Miracles on page 218. Miracles are merely the translation of denial into truth. You just heard me say what denial is. Denial is that you don't embrace the idea of God as love in every condition, in every moment, in every place, under all circumstances. So you're still in denial, and this is what this is talking about. Miracles are merely the translation of denial, that level of consciousness, into truth. For to love oneself is to heal oneself. Those who are sick do not love themselves. Therefore, they are asking for the love that would heal them, but which they are denying to themselves. If they knew the truth about themselves, they could not be sick. The task of the miracle worker thus becomes to deny the denial of truth. So those that are living in the denial of the presence of God in every person, every place, every condition, under every circumstance, as love, those who are living in that need to deny that denial of truth. So here's what it says. The task of the miracle worker thus becomes to deny the denial of truth. The sick must heal themselves. I just got done saying, you can go to the mountaintops in Tibet, wherever you want to go, find a guru, do whatever you think you can do. To have somebody lay their hands on you, forget about it. You have to lay your hands on your own consciousness. Okay, here's what it's saying. The sick must heal themselves, for the truth is in them. Yet having obscured it, the light in another mind must shine into theirs, because that light is theirs. The light in them shines as brightly, regardless of the density of the fog that obscures it. If you give no power to the fog to obscure the light, it has none. For it has power only if the Son of God gives power to it. He must himself withdraw the power, remembering that all power is of God. You can remember this for all the sonship. That means for everyone. You can be in a state of remembrance of the presence of God as love in everything and everywhere, at all the time. Takes practice. Do not allow your brothers and sisters not to remember their divinity, for their forgetfulness is yours, but your remembering is theirs, for God cannot be remembered alone. Pretty powerful stuff, speaking about the two different dimensions, where the one dimension is the illusion of separation, personalities, everybody vying for his or her own personal self-interest to be acknowledged for whatever specialness that they are pursuing. That's the one dimension. And the other dimension is having taken to task that false thinking and doing something extraordinary. By faith, starting not to react to limited conditions, people, circumstances, starting to be able to pause, not respond in negative kind at all, ever, to pause and know you prefer peace, you choose peace over all things. You do not choose winning, being right, being smarter than, bigger than, richer than. You don't choose that anymore because it has only led to more conflict. So you carry your awareness of the presence with you. And by being able to do that, you heal everything within yourself and all around you. I can remember a time when I actually threw the Course in Miracles against the wall. It's the only thing I could do. I mean, I was inside an apartment. I had thoughts of just setting it on fire, but I threw it against the wall because at that time, it just seemed to me that it was advocating a false ideal that life just wasn't that way and could never be that way. Well, I went through a lot of lessons, hard lessons, self-imposed lessons of pain and suffering. So what I'm saying to you now is not from any, not specifically from schooling in unity. While the unity principles and schooling in unity is a very valuable and helpful thing because it's attempting to school us in such a way as we make this transformation. But by direct experience, I can speak to you and do speak to you about this other dimension of life which is truly worth living. So if we're ready to hear the truth, I mean so directly and completely, I'm reading from A Course in Miracles workbook right now. You who were created by love, like itself, can hold no grievances and know yourself. To hold a grievance is to forget who you are. To hold a grievance is to see yourself as a body. To hold a grievance is to let the ego rule your mind and to condemn the body to death. Perhaps you do not yet fully realize just what holding grievances does to your mind. It seems to split you off from your source and make you unlike God. It makes you believe that God is like what you think you have become. For no one can conceive of his or her creator as unlike himself or herself. So people say, they used to say this, they don't say it very much these days. They used to say, but Jack, in the real world, I used to give a talk, or have a class, or have a group discussion, but then afterwards someone would come and say, yeah, but Jack, in the real world. And what they were referring to is the world that they were projecting and living in. That world, the world of the thinking and the illusion based on the false definition of self, being a separate body-mind and a world a separate other, And I have an objective capability. I have the objective observance of things, so I know the right and wrong of things. Sorry, you don't, cannot, never will happen for you that way. And you have to get to a certain point where you'll finally agree, you know what, the Course in Miracles is right, I don't know. And the grievances that come to me out of my objective observance and judgment of all of that, those grievances block the majesty and healing of love, unconditional love. So you see that grievances holding you shut off from yourself, and what they're using is a capital S in A Course in Miracles. It means that the self that we have been defining is an illusionary self, which is a body-encapsulated mind with a brain that is an objective observing instrument in a world of separate phenomena and separate others whose interests don't necessarily coincide with mine. That's the self, the illusionary definition of self and life. But in the Course in Miracles, the self they're referring to, and someday we'll get used to this, as you step out of your door, your apartment, your house, your tent, your car, as you step out, all the people, all the conditions, everything you look upon is yourself, your true self, worthy of your fullest consideration, because whatever you think and do unto that self out there, you do unto your consciousness. That's it. Look, figure out how much money it would have cost you to travel to Tibet, to find a guru, to sit at the guru's feet or in his ashram. Think of all of that, which would cost you to get there and do that, and tithe it to unity. So the self is sacred, worthy of compassion, consideration, forgiveness, beyond reacting anymore. Can you imagine? Mastery was thought to be mind over matter. In other words, I'm going to get into the spiritual work because it's mine. I use powerful mind thoughts, and these things are going to change the conditions and circumstances to bless my personal desires, my dictates, my demands, my relationships. I'm going to have everything fulfill my personal expectations. You might as well hold a gun to the sky and say, okay, God, this is the way I want it. But I'm telling you what mastery is. Mastery is the ability to take to task your own awareness, to be able to stand quiet in the face of limited perceptions and affronts that may come your way, challenges that may find their way onto your path, and you just have that momentary stillness where you know, I am only here to preserve true peace, mystical compassion, mystical healing and forgiveness and love. I'm only here for that because as I'm doing that, my life becomes holy and perfect. So we're going to meditate together. We're going to listen to, you're going to use the crystal bowl.
Yes.
This is a good way to start meditation. Just to listen to this tone. And as you begin to give yourself permission to just be here in this moment, not conjecturing. Now, you may have some conjecturing going on, but don't worry about that. Not conjecturing. The conjecturing and the thinking, the incessant thinking that the Master Eckhart Tolle talks about is the thing that gets in our way of feeling good, feeling God, letting the presence purify the consciousness. So we become okay with just sitting here, allowing this moment to be whatever it is, holding nothing against our consciousness, holding nothing against the world, holding nothing against anything except being here, willing to feel God, good, peace. Now to gently focus the mind. And as you do this in any type of meditation, is to quiet the incessant thinking, ever pursuing personal self-interest, just to quiet that. You're not trying to stop it, you're simply letting it go, letting it relax. And you gently focus your awareness on this truth. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only God waiting for me. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only God waiting for me. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only God waiting for me. In this refined level of consciousness, we will offer the names of those that have been submitted to our prayer list. As Norma calls the name, just let the thought, "You are loved," go to that name.
Abdullah Okal and his wife Helene, Layed, Faye Russell, Gaza, Kimberly Brianne Malone, Wouter Van Hagen, Shahana Jasmine, Kibria Begum, Tyler Brown, Tosha Brown, Emery White, Alyssa White, Sandy Spahn, Steve Taylor, Kate Beltrami and family, David Booker, Joey Milne Thielander, Michael Thielander, Jean, John, Tom, Catherine, Marin, Celeste, the Whitaker family, Barbara, Sarah, Jackson, Bridger, Andrea, Eva, Amber, Alla, Jamie Bilyeu, Sandy Bigtree, healing the revolution between Israel and Hamas. Healing the resolution between Russia and Ukraine. All the world. You could call out a name at this time if you'd like to do so. We see this healing light surrounding the prayer box and all the names that have been submitted throughout the month. We see them healed physically, mentally, and spiritually. And if you've called out a name, please put the name into the prayer box.
Let us take a moment to embrace the vision, recognizing the coming of the new heaven and earth in consciousness, rising in the awareness of everyone sharing this Boulder community with us. And this divine consciousness rising in the awareness of everyone sharing the state of Colorado with us. And this continuing to spread to everyone sharing these United States of America with us. And spreading to every nation, every culture, every people on planet Earth. Restoring the pristine awareness of the divine awareness in God. And this bringing about harmony and peace and a new relationship of divine consideration among all the creatures on planet Earth. And we recognize this as the will and the plan of the living intelligence that gives us breath and life as we pray. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and God is love. To this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. Those of you that are watching live stream, you can scroll down on our website to a place that says donate and find the different ways you can donate to Unity of Boulder. And to everyone, we can just bring to mind that financial gift you'd like to make to Unity of Boulder. And let's bless these gifts with this prayer. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is. Amen. Join me now, please. We dedicate this tithe to the will and the work of the Spirit of truth, the Spirit that joins all of us. We dedicate this tithe to the victory of the Spirit of truth. Amen.
The Sacred Feminine will be meeting from 12 to 1:30 in the bookstore area. And if there's any remedy that you have used throughout the years, I would love people to share to other people, because there are so many people that have been coming in from other countries that use remedies that people don't know about, that are simple, that you can go to the store and buy. So that's what I would like to talk about tomorrow. And the senior group is meeting from 2 to 3:30 in Fellowship Hall. And that's a pretty big turnout. I mean, it's like, people really have some insights they'd like to share, and it's a wonderful group. And then choir is tomorrow night from 6:30 to 8, and it's going to be down in the music room downstairs. We'll have people to guide you down where it is. It's actually the middle room downstairs. And we're going to be doing carols. We're going to be working on those, but it's not going to be difficult, and it's really going to be fun, because it's just to get into that Christmas music. It just gets you into the whole season and what it's all about. And then you get to sing on a Sunday, during the Christmas season, and also at Christmas Eve. That we'll be working on the Sunday music and also the numbers you'll be doing at Christmas Eve. And all ages are welcome, so please show up at 6:30. And for those of you that can't make it physically, I can make, a parts CD that, you could at least show up when you can, but if you can't make it all the time, you could take with you to practice. I've made them through the years, so it isn't like something I have to go do. It is available, so come and be part of that whole group. They're so funny, they're so great.
All right. I hope to see everybody Sunday at the 9 o'clock service. And you might want to stay for the 11 o'clock service. These are going to be two very interesting talks. I think they're going to dovetail this week. I've been talking to Reverend Santisha, and she's really in touch with a very interesting perspective. So we'll see you on Sunday. To everyone who wants to stay and chat tonight, you can go through these doors to your left into the bookstore. We have tea and cookies there, and you can hang out and chat. And to everyone, good night.